Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Louise Savage of Louise Savage Muses, and today I have with me as a very special guest Simon Savage, my son.
Hello.
You're allowed to speak. I've been wanting to make this video. I don't want to make a video, I want to make a video.
Make either.
Been wanting to make
2023.
Well, that's
People just
true.
go with anything now.
They do, that's true. But I've been wanting to make this video for a really long time because I might make him blush now, but one of the things that I'm very proud of Simon, obviously.
Oh gosh, he never says this, so now I'm feeling a bit worried. Am I going to cry on camera for the first time? Maybe.
But one of the things I'm most proud about is the way that you support the Women's Prize. I think it's really interesting, which is why I wanted to make this video.
What is this video?
Well, it's about the Women's Prize and why we love it and why you love it. So the first thing I wanted to ask you was when you first became aware of the prize. Can you remember?
I can't remember the year, but I can remember the book. But also the reason that you were saying you're proud of how much I promote it. I don't think I would be the reader I am without it, because I didn't read for quite a long time, from my late teens to my early 20s. And whilst they weren't the first books I went to, I remember once a trip in Blackwell's when it was in London with you, and you let me pick 5 books off the table. And one of them was a Women's Prize. I think it was Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun.
Okay.
I can't remember what year that won. I think it must be quite a while ago, because it was was it the 10th anniversary winner or the 20th anniversary? 20th anniversary winner.
Yeah.
Oh no, but that was the winner overall. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, as is my want and usual thing. But that was one of them, I think, along with, I remember I got Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, which didn't go on so well. But I think prizes were really important when I was getting back in, not important, but were part of me getting back into reading, because when you go to a table and you see a book has a prize sticker on it, and always, I think I've always just preferred women's writing to men's.
That's interesting.
I've got different theories on why that might be, I think. Because I saw a lot of women's books probably on yours and Gran's shelves.
Yeah, maybe.
And some of your favourites were probably some of the ones that I headed to, even possibly subconsciously. So Margaret Atwood, Kate Atkinson. Well, I always remember your editions of Maya Angelou. They're those sort of 70s, 80s editions.
The green ones.
Yeah, they're lovely. So yeah, and I also, there was one point where I thought, is it because I'm gay? Genuinely. But then I think actually, I would probably head to just gay male writing if that was the case, which I don't think anyone does, because I think everyone likes to read outside their experience. Or actually, no. I think you start off reading in your experience to find yourself in books, and then I think you start to read outside your experience. That's my experience.
Yeah.
I still experience a lot.
You have, but that's fine. Having discovered it, and become interested in it, what is it that's maintained your interest over the years?
I think, so there's probably a couple of strands to it, which are that once I'd read that book, I sort of saw those stickers on other books, or started to look at what books might be on them. Also, I think it was when I was getting into blogging, before the podcasting that I did, and then now YouTube, there was quite a lot of talk about lists then, and I think the Women's Prize was the one that really stuck for me, because generally I would have the higher hit rate with it. Although actually Booker used to be one that I would do the entire long list of, and then me and Booker just didn't gel for a little while. I think maybe I'm headed back that way, but you know, I love every winner that I've read of the book, with the exception of the Luminaries. Sadly, I didn't get on with that at all. Yeah. But the Women's Prize was the one that had the most discussion on the internet, and I wonder if that's because at the time as well, a lot of bloggers were female. Right,
that's also very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
because YouTube, I'd say, even BookTube now is predominantly female.
Yes, I hadn't really thought about it. So the prize, one of the things it not sells itself, that's awful. It promotes itself, and I think rightly, as being a prize that is aimed at original and excellent writing. Yes. So those two words, originality and excellence, are really important in terms of what they are trying to achieve. So I'm really interested to know, and this is a hard question, but which is the most original book that you think you've come across through the Women's Prize, and which is the most excellent? No, it doesn't.
So, that's really, really hard. I think it depends because you know how books have hold certain memories with you.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. I was actually thinking that what I said earlier wasn't 100% true because the second Women's Prize winner I read, I didn't get on with.
Oh,
so
right.
I maybe, and that was the other thing I was going to say as well is, once I really got into it, the prize was so open to like welcoming people into it, and that I think also really helped. Like if they're just really open and really engaged, and they really engage with readers. I wanted to say that earlier, sorry I forgot. So that was an added bonus. What has been the most original one that I've read? There's a few. Am I allowed to see more than one?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
of course.
The House...
It's not a test.
There's one by Julia Rochester, and I want to say it's called The House at the End of the Cliff, but that isn't quite right. That book was one of the best debuts I read all that year, and there was just something about it that was so... you said original, so it's how is it original? There was just something about it that was told in a really original, different way that made almost a family drama like a thriller.
Oh, right.
Really
so it's twisting a genre.
Sort of. And actually I would say Ayobami Adebayo Stay With Me.
Right.
Because that's, in essence, a book about a marriage and a woman who can't conceive a child, or we presume, or society there presumes it's her. But actually that becomes a real thriller because you cannot stop reading that book. So I'd say that one. Gosh, in terms of excellence, because it's like, I think as we've read 25 years worth, well, how many years worth it is now of winners, and originality and excellence. But again, you see, that's different to every person, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, but I'm asking you see.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
I'm not asking
was
you.
The Bees by Lillian Paul? I think that might have been on a shortlist, and that being told about the life of bees through a bee, that I thought was phenomenal. Yeah. And even though it didn't, you know, she had freely admitted that like she had to tweak a bit of truth and stuff in order to get to see the whole hive because a bee never would. But I just remember being absolutely gripped by that, and
it's fiction anyway. You're allowed to tweak the truth.
Yeah, and I'm excited because obviously we're going to be reading her new one, which will be through the perspective of a dolphin, which is going to be really, really interesting.
I'm looking forward to it. Is it a dolphin or a whale?
Very hard with like you've put me on the spot a little bit.
Well,
I'm just
trying to think. The whole point of an interview is
I know, but like
also
I'm trying to think because then I'm thinking there's these books that I thought were original. Did they make the long list that year? Did they? Yeah. So that's quite a hard one.
Probably should have printed off the list before we started the interview because I knew there would be moments
you'd have decades of
lists.
that's
true. You would. We'd
just be lists on lists.
We'd have wallpaper.
Yeah, that'd be it. Excellence. I guess in terms of all the books that I have read that have originality, I would also say, although I don't know if she'd appreciate me saying this. Hi, Oscar. I think originality would also be Girl, Woman, Other because I think it plays with form really well. Yes. But I know Bernadine would be like, it's not that original, Simon.
Right, okay. Yeah, but it's
but
we're
it
not
was
asking
original,
her, we're asking you.
No, but it was original. It was something different for me, even though I'd read her before. And then there's another one that I just thought of. I'm thinking about winners now. I know.
Oscar,
have you got any suggestions?
Is not about you.
Have you got any suggestions about the Women's Prize? I was trying to think there was a winner there that I thought was quite original, but that's now gone out of my head completely. It'll come to me.
Don't worry, because it might filter back.
This is why I'm not used to being interviewed. I like to be the interviewer.
You was really not happy about me doing this, were you?
Well, it's that thing where, because there's so many possibilities, and also because I'm looking around trying to look at authors to see if that sparks me off on anyone that I've not mentioned.
Yeah. Okay,
anyway,
well I'm going to ask you about something really different now, so this will take your brain somewhere else. I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think, certainly for me, and I think probably for you as well, one of the reasons we love the prize so much is the process in terms of the selection, the judges, the way that happens. Am I assuming that? You know, what is it about the whole sort of judging process that you, I think, respect?
I don't know if that's a really interesting one. I think I like what the prize stands for, first and foremost. So, you know, it was set up in order to give voice to women's writing that was being overlooked, and the fact that not many were winning the Booker, or even getting longlisted on the Booker. Ironic that it used to be the man Booker, and I still accidentally call it that even now. I think it's more the ethos behind it. I've always found it an incredibly warm prize where people... I mean, you'll know this from coming to events and stuff. There's just a lot of love for it, and I think that transfers into the whole process. So I think that sounds probably sort of slightly sycophantic, but I think it's the ethos they've created and the culture they've created around it. That means that, you know, I mean, for me, it was originally, if I'm being 100% honest, I was trying to outjudge the judges.
Yeah,
Because I
right.
would, you know, when I was blogging, I would get the list and I would read them and then see which ones I would put for, or which ones I would have even listed.
Yeah.
And there is still a little bit of that now, but it's sort of done more tongue in cheek, and I don't take myself so seriously maybe so much now. But I think that was part of it, because I don't think before maybe the last 5-6 years I would have paid that much attention to the judges.
Oh, right, okay, that's interesting.
Because
we always now are really interested to see who they
Yeah.
are and what their backgrounds are, and I love the fact, I'm talking about myself here now, but I really like the fact that they are usually from very different backgrounds and different sort of avenues of experience. So for me, I think that's one of the things that makes the prize quite vibrant and special.
Oh yeah.
And also the fact that it's a different panel every year.
Yeah, I'm big on that. I think that should be the case with, and it is the case with nearly all prizes now. But I think, yeah, I've had some hilarious like conversations with people I've become friends with, who I then found out judged it before I even knew they were like, I would have known, that wouldn't have been something that I would even thought about.
Yeah.
So that's been quite funny, because I'm like, oh, did you? Okay, how was it? And that's been really nice. Yeah. But also slightly a bit like, oh, maybe I should have known that, as thing as I think that I'm like, I have to say, clearly I shouldn't do a mastermind round on Women's Prize, because I just wouldn't do that well with judges or books or no, but it's just making me think about that.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say?
I don't know.
Oh no, it's because I've thought about excellence. So in terms of excellence, probably my favourite Women's Prize book yet would be Small Island by Angela Lee. I think that is a truly incredible book, both in terms of what it's writing about, what it's shining a light on, her writing. It's just, that was my excellence. Sorry, went backwards.
No, it's allowed. It's allowed. Do you think it's changed over the years?
I'm realising I'm a control freak. I like to be controllable.
I said this to him yesterday when I asked him if we could do this. I said, you're not going to like it because you're not going to be in control. Anyway, you've ignored my question.
What was the question?
So the question was, do you think it's changed over the years in any way?
No. Do I think? I think it moves with whatever the publishing
world.
I was going to say more like it's got to move with how publishing is moving, because it can only be defined by what is published. So that's why when we were talking about it when we were filming for our reactions video on my channel, I was saying like I think it's incredible now that it shows how much breadth and like the amount of incredible books by women there are, and the fact that so many people this year could only predict like 3 or 4 out of the whole list. That's exciting, and I think shows that it's still very much needed, because I also think actually it has to change and evolve based on its audience and what its ethos is as it tries to, it became a charity. That changes things slightly just in terms of anything. But I think it's that I think what I also like though is it doesn't feel it has to fit in with what's cool or what's trendy. I've also just thought of originality. A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing by Emma McBride. That's probably one of the most original books I've ever read. I
think it's a prize that is there for very serious reasons but doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yes, I think it has fun.
Yes, I think it does.
I think it'd be interesting if they do a Women's Prize for non-fiction, if that would be different, and that would have a different stance. Yeah. Do
we still need it?
Yeah, definitely.
Go on, explain to me why.
Partly because I just like reading it, so we need it for me. I think as well we need it because, like I was saying, it's still showing there's so much breadth of authors. I think the fact that there's probably going to be a bit of uproar about what names aren't on it is great, because it shows that nobody's guaranteed to be. That's why I like in my predictions, I didn't choose Barbara Kingsolver. I didn't necessarily choose like Maggie O'Farrell, because I love the fact that there's you can't second guess it. I mean, you have loads of fun trying and they love everyone getting involved in trying, but you physically can't, and there's no guarantee that a previous winner or shortlister or longlister will be on the list again. And I think that's less so with the Booker, for example, because automatically they get resubmitted.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the case with the Women's Prize, but I think it's the fact that it still remains exciting. I had a lull with it last year. I don't know quite what that was about, whether it was me being a bit mardy that Sarah Winman wasn't on it, which I'm not taking seriously, like in terms of certain authors that aren't on it this year. You know, I'm being much more chill about that. But I think, I don't know, there was something last year that was a bit off kilter, but this year I feel like it's back on.
Would you like to judge it?
Not allowed.
I know, but do you think that should change?
Well, it's interesting because the Stella Prize in Australia has a male judge, so it's 4 women, 1 man. But I think because of the honorarium for funding
that's interesting.
with the Women's Prize, you can't be. Obviously, I would love to. Like, I think that would be the prize of all prizes. I mean, surely you would as well.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. But I mean,
you never know.
That's not gonna happen.
You never know. Yes, I would, but I also think actually, I don't know if I would. I've been inside a few prizes, if you know what I mean, and there's something quite nice about a prize that I can't be in.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I get to, you know, some people say you are inside, you get things a little bit early, you know, you get to blah, 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 go to the events, etc., which is all lovely. I'm very lucky that that happens, but I'm not inside it. I'm not inside the cogs. And that could, I don't know, it's a bit like going behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain. Maybe I don't really want to 100%. Not that it's been a bad experience on other prizes that I've judged. I've been very lucky with who I've judged and stuff with, but
just want to keep it a bit special.
And also because as well, like, I know I think because I love it so much, I would be so invested in certain authors, it could bring out quite a dark side of me in the judging meeting. Because I've been very impassioned in other prizes, and the savage side of my personality has come out. Yeah. I remember it was I think it might have been India Night when we were doing Fiction Uncovered. He said, "Blimey, your surname suddenly arrived, doesn't it?" And maybe actually I once with the Costas, because you can't help it. But that's again why I think actually going back to the judges and them being important is I know that every judge on every panel will be passionate about books.
Yes.
I think sometimes there can be a bit of a raised eyebrow when like certain celebrities get on there, but that's because they love books.
Yeah.
Like they're not just, you know, realistically, if you don't like books, you're not going to end up doing something where you're going to have to read probably about 100 books. Yeah, it would just be not right. Have you got an original and an excellent?
Oh, now you've turned the tables.
Well,
I wasn't, you know, going to be thinking, have I got an original and an excellent? I still absolutely love My Sister the Serial Killer.
Oh yeah, that was a great book.
You know, I just, there's something about it's exquisitely brief.
Which is interesting.
Again,
Louise
a bit
Savage,
genre bending.
Because you said on your channel recently that you don't.
No. I think you're misinterpreting what I've said. It frustrates me. I know what you're going to say. It frustrates me that most books, it seems to me, that are published nowadays are about 300 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that odd. It's as if we're catering to, you know, some perception that people just have short attention spans now because of the way the world's changed.
I do think people do have short attention spans though.
But there's something really wonderful, as I've said before, about being immersed. I mean, I'm reading, I was going to say the Poisonwood Bible. I'm not reading the Poisonwood Bible at the moment. I read it years ago. I'm reading Demon Copperhead at the moment. And it's just lovely, just like wriggling into that feeling of spending so much time with those characters. And you have to kind of invest more, I think, as a reader. But also, I love books that are short, sharp shocks as well. So I'm not. It's a bit like, it's a terrible thing. Well, it's an interesting comparison. It's a bit like when I'm teaching at school, and the kids, a lot of children, even sort of teenagers, will not have a clue what a paragraph does. So they think that every single paragraph has to be the same length.
That's interesting.
And straight away, that gives away to me the fact that they've got no idea what it's for. You know, and it's a really interesting conversation to have with them.
I'm not sure I do.
But
I just know I don't like books without them.
But it feels a bit like that. It's like we've got this formula of about 300. It's got to be about 300 words because that's what people seem to be able to cope with. And I just find it patronising and irritating.
300 pages. 300 words would be a very...
That would be a very... Yeah,
but that's interesting as well because with the prize, they have to be over 30,000 words. So, but I think, I mean, we were talking about this yesterday in the fact I think it's going to be really interesting, or it is really interesting with all prizes, how there can be a book of 600 pages that you're comparing to a book maybe of 250. That I find really interesting. But I think as well, like, I probably don't head to big books as much as I should. But when I love them, they'll be some of my favourite books that I read because you are lost in them. But if they go even the slightest bit wrong, and I know I've talked to you about me and Bret Easton Ellis at the moment. Sorry to bring a man onto the conversation, but it's just too long, and that has made me frustrated. So that then puts me off reading long books for a while.
I would agree with that, because I do think, you know, this might seem to contradict what I'm saying. It isn't. But I do think I read an awful lot of books that haven't been edited heavily enough as well.
I think that happens with
there's been a rush to publish or whatever, and I find that equally frustrating.
I think that tends to happen, I think, the experience I've had with some big books by big authors, that's because they're big authors, so they can demand a bit more of their freedom, but everyone needs to be reined in a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's right. And actually, most of the authors that I think I admire appreciate the whole editing process. You know, it's really important. And a lot of them comment, don't they, on their relationship between themselves and their editor.
But it's interesting, I was thinking about, like, this isn't a question you asked, but I was thinking about, like, if there's any way that I would change the prize or whatever. And the only
that's good, because that was going to be my next question.
Oh, was it?
So, no, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, it's good.
And you can't, well, the change I would like to see, you just can't enforce. And that is that I feel like we don't necessarily get as much fiction from Australia. But that's a personal passion of mine, because I love Australian fiction. But again, because the publishing situation in the UK is that not that many books from Australia are published, you can't work with what you've not got.
No, exactly. It's tricky, isn't it?
But I also love, like, the fact
chicken and egg.
Debuts can go against someone who's on their 20th book, and well, not go against, that sounds wrong, but, like, I really, really love that. But I also wonder, is it as internationally recognised as I think?
Yeah, that's a question I can't ask. I mean, well, we can ask our viewers, although you probably wouldn't be watching this if you weren't a fan. So, but if you are watching from other parts of the world, please can you let us know what you think popular opinion is about the Women's Prize in the UK? Because, I think that's a really good question.
I'm not sure, like, and again, I don't want to be pairing prizes off against each other, but, like, the Booker winner will get published internationally. I don't know necessarily if all Women's Prize winners will.
All right, we need to find out, don't we?
So,
I'd like to know the answer.
Have you had any Dud Women's Prize winners? I think I know one. You're not a big fan of the Son of Achilles, although you really like Cersei.
I'm not, you see. I loved Cersei, but that's a really personal reason. It's just because I have my own Achilles in my head, and heaven help anyone who touches him. Your own Achilles is your own Achilles. It's absolutely. I've lived with Achilles for 40 years. How does Tim feel about that? Well, he's used to it. I've never seen him round your house. He's always shipped off when we visit. Achilles, I mean, not Tim. I see my stepdad. Yeah, no, that would be true. I wasn't a massive fan of that book. But I'm grateful, because you think about what it's done. Oh my goodness, I think... we were talking earlier today, weren't we, about... And this is where I love the fact that the Women's Prize does have a huge impact, because since Song of Achilles... there've been so many wonderful retellings of classical myth. Yeah. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think, you know... That book just had a huge effect. I think, as well, that book wouldn't have won the Booker, for example, because it's... No. And I don't mean this in a bad way. People will try and read that I'm saying something negative. I'm not. It's slightly more commercial. But what I also really love about, I do think with the Booker, it is very highbrow. But much more accessible than I always think, actually. Last year it was more accessible than I thought. But I think maybe that prize has changed more than the Women's Prize. But that's what I like about the Women's Prize, like, you know, that you can have the more commercial books along with the more literary sort of giants. And that, to me, is exciting as well, because, again, it's about the breadth. It's just, how do you personally... Judging, I will say, is really hard, and I always feel for judges, because they get a kick in whenever a long list or a short list comes out. Well, you can't win, can you, as a judge? No, but also, because people don't get to see the conversations. Like, I know there were certain books when I judged the Costas, people were shocked didn't get, like, whatever, because it was back when I used to stupidly talk about books that may have been on the list. But you can't, sometimes you have to barter. Yeah, it's got to be a compromise, really, really tough. And I've lost real favourites before on different, and the Savage Side has come out, and sometimes it's won. But it's also because we feel so passionately about the books we love.
Yeah.
You know, that's what readers are like, that, aren't they?
But that's the other thing I want to say as well, is I think that the judges are chosen on not who they are within the industry, or that might be perceived that way possibly, but they will have to be readers.
Yeah.
And that's what, because people say to me, oh, do you read differently when you're judging a prize or when you're hosting a event? I read exactly the same, I just might like make more notes.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's no, I think there isn't a magical way of reading differently because actually you should read as a reader, and that's what makes anybody able to do a booktube channel, a blog, anything like that. And you said this to me once, because I remember I used to get quite bad imposter syndrome because I hadn't done a degree, and but you were like, yeah, but if you read books, by default you can compare what you've read and you build what your taste is, and therefore that's how you choose what you like. Yeah,
we're all equal in that sense.
Yeah.
One final question then, and you're not going to be very good at this.
Oh, great.
If you could sum the Women's Prize up in 3 words, what would they be? Oh, look at his face.
They would be a joyous endeavour.
A joyous... That's lovely. I like that. A joyous endeavour.
What would yours be?
Oh, I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, you have to.
No, I can't.
We're not going anywhere until you do. I won't move.
It's not up to you to do that.
Go on, you've got to have 3 words that you can sum it
But
up
you see, I'm conditioned now because I want to... Because now I'm thinking of other words for happiness. I'm just thinking of synonyms of what you just said. So it's not going to work. But I will come up with something. Anyway, thank you so much for that, Simon. I really enjoyed that.
I did enjoy it a bit.
Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No, but I think it's that thing that I know, and this happens with any video I make anyway. As soon as I finish, or we finish, I'll be like, oh, that book was excellent, that book was original, that book was da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's not a test.
Well,
that's why.
It is to
You're
me.
treating it like a job interview or a
That's because
exam.
you're being Magnus Magnuson. People won't know who that is, probably. Anyway,
thank you very much for joining us today on my channel. Thank you very much to you, Simon, for allowing me to put you through your paces.
You didn't make me cry. I had a little bit of a voice wobble at the start. We're off book shopping, aren't we?
We are off book shopping shortly, so we're going to have to go. But thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome.
I wasn't ready.
Oh my god. Just can't work with these people.
Now I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to get the giggles.
Oh no. Are you a bit giddy?
No.
You have been a bit giddy the last 2 days. Giddy. She's been giddy. I do like that new jumper.
Thank you very much.
But I definitely have it in the same colour. I really should have worn it. That would have been funny.
Oh, you didn't.
All right.